Good evening, class. My name is Brandon Clark. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to join the military? I can tell you personally that joining the military was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my entire life. I have served on active duty for the past 12 years with the United States Air Force. A person joining the military does not receive a luxurious or fabulous salary, but the low wages are outweighed by the benefits that a military member receives. Today, I will talk to you about pay and extra pay benefits that a military member will receive when they join the military. I'll talk to you about the medical benefits a military person and their family will receive when they join the military. I'll talk to you about educational benefits that a person will receive while either on active duty or got out of the military after serving active duty. I will talk to you about the advanced technical and support training that a person will receive while being in the military. I'll talk to you about the opportunities for world travel that a person could have while serving in the military. I'll also talk to you about a pension that a person will receive after serving 20 years in the military. First thing I'm going to talk about is pay and extra pay benefits. Basic pay is basically basic pay that a person receives every month while being in the military. The basic pay fluctuates depending on what rank you are. For an enlisted person, like for me, I'm an E6, so I make a significantly higher basic pay than an E1. So the more rank you get, the higher basic pay is. You have two categories to basic pay. You can either be enlisted or you can be an officer. An officer is a person that went to college before joining the military and went to officer training school, and those range between 01 and 02 to 3 depending on if you were prior enlisted or not. The next thing I'm going to talk about is basic substance allowance, which is basically your allowance for food and groceries that you get every month. This is a set amount. It doesn't fluctuate up and down. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the basic allowance for housing. The basic allowance for housing does fluctuate up and down. It depends on if you have a family, and it also depends on what location you're at. So for me, being here in Nebraska, my basic allowance for housing could either be higher or lower than someone living in, let's say, Hawaii. So your basic allowance for housing is dependent on the location of where you are and if you have a family or not. Next thing I want to talk about is tax-free. A person that goes to a combat zone will receive tax-free pay for that month and any subsequent month that a person stays in a tax-free zone or combat zone. The next thing I'm going to talk about is sign-on bonuses. Sign-on bonuses are dependent on whether a AFSC or a job in the military is short-manned. Depending on how short-manned the job is, a current job could have a sign-on bonus between $3,000 and $5,000, and another job, depending on how really short-manned they are, could be between $5,000 and $50,000. Your sign-on bonus, you would get half of it up front, and then you would get the other half of it spread out through your enlistment. So, and your sign-on bonus is calculated by how many years you enlist in the military as well. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is medical benefits. Every person that joins the military receives medical benefits. A person that joins the military that has a family their family will also receive medical benefits for health care. And they also receive dental as well. And basically any type of health care that you can receive on the outside, as in the civilian sector, you would receive in the military. And if your military installation does not have that type of care or cannot provide that type of care for you, they will refer you to an off-base agency that will assist you in taking care of your medical needs. If the healthcare benefits alone do not convince you to join the military, the next thing I will talk about is educational benefits. First thing I'm going to talk about is the Montgomery GI Bill. The Montgomery GI Bill is automatically afforded to military members once they join the military. A Basically, this allows a military member to get a free education up to 36 months or 4 years, whichever you decide to do. This type of payment will allow a person up to $1,368 a month for a full-time institutional education. This benefit will end approximately 10 years after the last date that the service member is on active duty. So basically 10 years to the day you leave the military, your Montgomery bill will be no longer allowed. The next thing I want to talk about is the post 9/11 GI Bill. This bill is significantly different than this one. The post 9/11 GI Bill gives a person a book stipend, a housing stipend, and tuition fees. This bill right here pays for your tuition, your housing, and your books. This bill right here is dependent on how many days a military member actually spends in the military. So basically you will get as much time as you spent in the military from that bill. The next thing I'm going to talk about is tuition assistance. Tuition assistance is paid in full by the military. Right now I'm currently using tuition assistance. I can take 6 classes a year free of charge. I pay nothing. I currently have not had to pay anything out of pocket for my education. So if these educational benefits still have not convinced you to join the military, the next thing I will talk to you about is advanced technical and specialty training. The military provides a gateway for a person to learn some sort of specialty or technical training. On this slide are just a few examples of technical trainings that a person can have when they join the military. Like for instance, a person could work in finance. They could do HVAC, which is heating and cooling. They could work in law offices. They could work on airplanes. They could do civil engineering. They could do computer technology. There are a lot of jobs that the military offers. So if you are not too sure what you want to do when you get right out of high school, like I was, I joined the military and went into aircraft maintenance. I work on planes and I love it. So there are thousands of jobs for you to choose from. So if you don't really know what you want to do once you get out of high school, this is a great way for you to get out into the real world and experience a job that you might like before you actually take college courses and get that degree in that specific field. The next thing I'm going to talk about is world travel. Excuse me. Every person, when they join the military, they know that they will take a deployment at some time. There are various deployed locations all over the world. As I said earlier, once you go to a deployment or a combat zone, you will receive tax-free pay for that month or any subsequent month. There are opportunities for people to live overseas. There are bases all over the world. A person can choose to live in, let's say, Turkey or England or Greece. There are many opportunities for a person to live overseas and to see more of countries than they would normally in their normal lifetime. There's also opportunities for people to live in different states. We have a lot of bases all over the United States. So if you are wondering if you could go live in a state here at stateside, then this would give you an opportunity to see the world, basically. I personally have seen all 50 states and been to about 8 different countries since I've been in the military. If that's not enough to convince you to join the military, the next thing I'll talk about is the pension that you will receive once you get out of the military. A person can receive a pension after 20 years of service in the military. Basically, a person will receive 50% of their basic pay, which, as I said earlier, depends on what grade you are when you retire. So, let's say I'm an E7, I will get 50% of my basic pay when I retire. And I will also get my medical benefits when I retire too. In order for you to receive your 50% of your pay and your medical benefits when you're completed with the military, you have to do at least 20 years in order to receive this. If that's not enough to convince you, then I don't really know what else to say. I hope I convinced you to join the military. To conclude this presentation, I've talked about pay and extra pay benefits. I've talked about medical benefits. I've talked about educational benefits. I've talked about advanced technical and specialty training. I've talked about world travel. I've talked about the pension you'll receive after receiving 20 years. So, why don't you just go out and find yourself a local recruiter and sign up right now. Thanks. If anybody has any questions after this presentation, I'll be available. Thank you.